Savage. Later this evening at 7:06. Mike Broomhead. Now on News Talk 550 KFYI.
KFYI.com.
Thanks for being here this afternoon. It is the Mike Broomhead Show. 602-260-KFYI. 260-5394 is the phone number. Joining me in studio is United States Senator John McCain. Senator McCain, always good to see you.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for having me back. There's so much happening that I don't know where to start.
I don't know where to start with. But let's start here. The Secretary of State, we have not heard from her very much here in the States, and now I think I'm figuring out why the president doesn't want her speaking very often. Ecuadorian television, she lets the cat out of the bag that the Obama administration is going to sue Arizona or challenge our law in court. What do you think of all this?
I think that you can't make it up. Yeah. I mean, you cannot make up that we hear that a decision is made, which is rarely that the federal government sues a state, that we find that out by Ecuadorian television. I mean, again, you can't make that up. And the second thing is, why in the world would the president of the United States, if they've made that decision, not give the courtesy, common decency to at least the governor? If not to me and John Kyle, okay.
Right.
But the governor of the state to say, hey, we're going to sue you. But instead, we find out on Ecuadorian television. I mean, if I'd have said that was going to happen last time I was on your show, you'd have thought that I was using that $3 million worth that they just intercepted down in San Luis. I mean, you can't make that up. Well, but let me also say,
okay,
this is really outrageous. It's really outrageous because they've been trying to find something wrong with that law. And I've talked to many people who have studied that law that say that there's really nothing unconstitutional about it. It's all states' rights. But maybe more importantly for the President of the United States, the overwhelming majority of the American people say we're doing the right thing because the border's broken, that the federal government has not fulfilled its responsibility. So they may find themselves in a PR problem here, an administration, a president that's desperately seeking ways to improve his numbers. I think this may end up to be a serious mistake on their part. But why in the world? Ecuadorian television?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. And it's, the president, I have to give the governor credit because when Janet Napolitano was our governor, she refused to meet with the president. Didn't agree with him. She said, I'm not meeting with him. If he wants to meet with me, I will, but I'm not setting a meeting. Even when he was in the state of Arizona, she wouldn't meet with him.
Yep.
But Jan Brewer goes to Washington, D.C. She goes into the belly of the beast and meets with him, and she takes him at his word. 2 weeks, you're going to have somebody. 2
weeks, you're going to have something. And what has happened? Now, I guess that the reports are, that he would send administration officials, lower-ranking officials to the state to talk to the governor. Frankly, that's insulting. Governors of states have the right to communicate if it's a serious issue with the President of the United States and vice versa, and expect the President of the United States to communicate with them. Look, I've never seen anything like this administration. I just have not. And but look, I don't know. Earlier I was asked, can we sue the federal government? I think there's too many restrictions against that, to be honest with you. It's so hard to sue the federal government. But I am confident that at least the people I've talked to, and I suggest you have some real experts on the show next week, because if they're going to bring suit, that the people I talk to that are legal scholars, that are lawyers, say that they don't have a case. Now we'll see.
Yeah, and the most disheartening part of that was, you take somebody at their word. You're right. They could have at least told the governor, we're against this and we're going to sue you. But it seems like they get lip service when they're in the White House and they take his word in good faith, and then they come back and it's almost like a backside, almost like stabbing us in the back by letting it come out on Ecuadorian television. And you would think that being the Secretary of State, that the word would have been out, keep your mouth shut. I mean, I don't know why would she say that on a television? Obviously they were keeping it quiet.
Yeah, why would she go to a foreign country and say that, which is clearly an internal domestic issue? And by the way, this may come down to what you and I believe in is federalism, and that is the state's rights to act,
right,
unless those privileges and rights and responsibilities are preserved for the federal government. Now, the essence of federalism, and yours and my philosophy, is less government is best government. The government best closest to the people is the best and most responsive government, and the federal government should do the least amount. So this could be turned into what apparently, and I'm thinking out loud here, a states' rights issue. And I think the majority of the American people, the way they're feeling now, don't have a lot of confidence in the federal government,
right,
and a lot more confidence in the state government.
And
but it still is a federal responsibility to secure the borders.
And I agree with that. If the federal government was doing their job, it'd be great if we didn't have to concern ourselves with this. But what I've been arguing with people in other states about is they could be next. What happens if they create a law that they deem is necessary for their state, and the federal government decides they don't like that one? Are they going to be next with lawsuits?
Well, also interesting on the other side of the coin is that there's a number of states that are considering the same kind
absolutely.
Kind
Let us take the heat, and then they'll just kind of create the law behind us.
There you go. Interesting.
Now, very quickly, let me ask you about the Gulf of Mexico and what's going on there. You and I were talking before we came on the air. Explain, if you can, the Jones Act and how this is affecting what's happening in the Gulf of Mexico, and what you see with this ridiculous thing where the Coast Guard wasn't allowing the barges to work to suck up all this oil for a short time. Can you give us some insight on some of this?
3 points.
Okay.
One is the dispersant. The EPA had said and blocked them from using it for a very critical period of time because they said it wasn't, quote, approved. It was pre-approved. So, again, and the director of the EPA now setting that kind of policy, I mean, pretty remarkable. Shows who's in charge in the administration. The Jones Act is an act that was passed in the 1920s. It said only American-built, owned, and flagged and crewed vessels can operate in our coastal waters. Foreign countries have offered to send, for example, Saudi Arabia sent a super tanker to fill it up with oil that they could take right out. That the president has refused to waive the Jones Act. He can waive it so that many foreign countries have offered to send assistance. Finally, there's supposedly, I am told, and you need to check up on this, about 1,000 of these skimmers around. And I am told yesterday that so far they're only using a little over 100 of them. And finally, if you listen to Bobby Jindal, the most respected guy in the region, the governor of Louisiana, there's no coordination. There is no cohesion. There is no real responsibility. They're just all flailing around in different ways. Meanwhile, some of the most beautiful beaches in the world are
absolutely.
And the economy. You know, I feel terrible about the beaches. I feel terrible about the people who are out of work and really that make their living and have for generations in the industry in the Gulf.
Okay, when we get back, I've got to take a break. When we get back, I want to ask you a couple of things. First of all, we're going to get to the campaign and the debate issue between you and Mr. Hayworth, but I also want to ask you about the president's speech when he was talking about the Gulf of Mexico and how he launched into this into his diatribe about his green energy. I want to talk about that in a moment because I want to get your opinion. Now someone's predicting $7 a gallon gasoline. So a lot of this stuff coming up. We're going to finish more. Now you can be with me until about 5:15, correct?
Sure,
okay.
Sure.
So we got more coming up with Senator McCain. Don't go away.
This is the Mike Broomhead Show. News Talk 550.
Speech about the Gulf region and about what happened. What did you think of the speech? We had it carried it live, and I commented after, and it seemed to follow afterward. People were upset. He, instead of talking about the people of the Gulf, he launched into some ideological thing he had no answers for. Any insight on the speech? What was your opinion of what he said?
My only opinion was that instead of addressing the deep and understandable concerns of the people of this nation, and especially those who are in the Gulf, he used it as a forum to try to push his, quote, green energy agenda. That's not what Americans want to hear about. I mean, if he wants to push a green energy agenda, by the way, which the Spanish tried. They tried in Spain, and it has been brought their economy.
There's nothing specific in this. We don't know how we're going to get there, but we'll get there.
If you listen to Keith Olbermann, you are a masochist. Okay,
I was just shocked
you
that he
are
agreed.
A crazy man if you do that.
I agreed with what he said about the president's speech.
For once, even a blind hog.
If I agreed with Keith Olbermann, I was a little worried, so I had to hear it for myself. Now, the president is talking about the green energy shift, and in all seriousness, today I saw a story that's predicting possible $7 a gallon gasoline. What are the ramifications of what the president wants to do, especially in the economic times we're in, if he tries to really hammer this agenda through?
Well, look, we all want to be free of our dependence on foreign oil. We want to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. All of us want all these things. But it's got to be a dollars and cents proposition. And the fact is that when you go into these, quote, green technology, I just mentioned the Spain and other countries, then you are going to raise prices on people and on the American consumer. But the fascinating thing about all this, the one area that, by the way, China and India are going gangbusters on is nuclear power. We should be building 100 nuclear power plants in the next 20 years, and we could do it. It's clean, it's cheap, it is, but this administration has closed Yucca Mountain after spending $17 billion of the ratepayers' money. Do you hear that? $17 billion of ratepayers' money has been spent on Yucca Mountain, and because of Harry Reid, they're shutting it down, and they won't recycle. The French, the British, the Japanese all recycle. So they boxed us out of the nuclear power business. And by the way, if anybody hadn't been down to our Palo Verde plant, that's a great operation down there. I was down there the other day. And by the way, they send power to L.A. I wonder if, I haven't heard yet from the L.A. City Council that they wanted us to stop sending them power over there. But anyway, so what do I think about? I think we are all for clean technologies, and there's nobody that I know of that isn't. But when you look at the actual contribution that wind, tide, solar, biomass, all of those things make, it is not a very big contribution, and it's got to be nuclear power as one of the prime components. But we should do nothing today, nothing that costs the taxpayers and the citizens of this country more money and raises their expenses. They're hurting too badly.
Yeah, and that's what seemed to be shocking about all of that, was that it almost was the people of the Gulf region were almost an afterthought once he launched into the agenda. And you know, you're right, clean energy and nuclear power seems to be what we ought to be focused on. We talked earlier about the ships and the cleanup in the Gulf, and a lot of this seems to be union driven. It's almost as if, you know, with the barges being stopped, is it really coming down to this?
Well, somebody will have to tell me another reason why this Jones Act was not waived, which is union requirements that they were able to get a law passed that said that ships have to be American. To work on our coastal areas have to be union, American made, American flag, and American crewed. That crews being American. So you can draw your own conclusions as to who's calling the shots there, but I can also tell you that they are going to push, again, labor's agenda through in the Senate in a broad variety of ways. They can't get card checked directly, but they're still going to try it indirectly now that they've got a 3-to-1 majority on the National Labor Relations Board. Now, not one in 1,000 listeners knows what I just said. They're the people that make the laws regarding the workplace, and they will be pursuing the union agenda.
All right, when we get back, we're going to talk about, we're going to ask you the big debate question. You and J.D. Hayworth, we're going to talk to you about debates. We are going to talk about what's coming up, because big changes. You know, the primary here is right around the corner. November is not far off. We're going to find out whether or not we are going to keep this president with the power and the liberal Congress that he has to work with, or if we're going to make sweeping changes. We're going to talk to Senator McCain about his primary and about his willingness to debate J.D. Hayworth. All that coming up right around the corner. Don't go away. Thanks for being here. Hour number 2 of the show. In studio with me is United States Senator John McCain. We're going to talk about the debates next. Thanks for being here. It's the Mike Broomhead Show.
I got a message. I got a song. Can I get a witness? Tell me what's going on.
All right, we are back. Now, Senator McCain, here's the question of the day. This is the one everybody wants to know. Here it is. Tell us once and for all, are you going to debate J.D. Hayworth and Jim Deacon in this primary?
Of course.
You are?
Sure.
How have you made a decision? When, where, how many?
No, we're looking at the options. You know, I have a day job. Okay. I just got back from Washington, and we have votes on Mondays, and so and I am going to Afghanistan and Iraq over the 4th of July. So, but we'll do it. We'll work it out.
Now, I
No
could be the
problem.
moderator. I'll moderate it. I'll be fair.
It sounds good to me.
Okay.
We'll be looking at it.
I'll be
sure. No problem.
And I've said in this campaign, I think it's good for Arizona. I know that it's gotten a little bit heated at times. It's gotten testy at times, but I think
At times.
I'm trying to be nice. I think this is good for Arizona. It clears the air. It gives people a chance to air both sides of this. And before we go into before I start asking you specific things, let me ask it this way. Give me a couple of reasons why people should vote for you. Why should they send you back to the Senate?
Well, who can be most effective for the state of Arizona in these very difficult times? I think the answer is obvious. I have continued to fight for Arizona every single day. I led the fight against the stimulus package. I led the fight against Obamacare. I'll be chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, protect our bases and the men and women in the military. We're in 2 wars. I have some credentials on national security that I'm can assure you my opponent doesn't. And the fact is that I've been a fiscal conservative and against earmark and pork barrel spending, which is corruption in Washington. And obviously that's a big difference between me and my opponent. And so I think that the key will be who can be most effective for the state of Arizona in these most difficult times. And I continue to fight for Arizona, and we will, after this November elections, we will have a chance to really bring about an end to Obamacare and get some fiscal sanity.
Well, let me ask you this. The border issue is on the tip of everybody's tongue nationwide right now, but especially here in the state of Arizona. Now, there was a $3 million worth of cocaine just caught at the border. You know that there was a Pinal County Sheriff's deputy that was just shot recently. So, again, address this border issue, because here's what the naysayers...
John Kyle and I have a 10-point plan. We are working on it. We have gotten some of it done. We will get it done. We have to get the border secured first. In 2006 and 2007, we did not have the same situation that we have today. The drug cartels have exploded out of control. In the last 3 years, 23,000 Mexican citizens have been killed. Rob Krentz was killed. The fact is, it is a national security issue. It's drug cartels and human smuggling, which are incredible, with Phoenix being the second largest, most kidnapping capital of the world. So, of course, we have to, as I've said, as far back as 2007, we have to secure the borders first. I know how to do it. I know how to get it done. And John Kyle and I have a plan for doing so. And so we will get it done. How does, every time the argument begins about immigration, we hear from the Obama administration now, comprehensive immigration reform versus securing the border, which seems to be what everybody agrees with. As I've said for a number of years, we have to secure the border first. Otherwise, we end up with another group of people who are in this country illegally. So we have to get the border secured first.
How do we do it? What does it look like?
Surveillance capability, people, and fences. And we learned a lot in Iraq about surveillance, and we can do it with UAVs. We get the Guard down there, and then we replace them with 3,000 more trained Border Patrol, and we fix the fences and we complete the fences.
What are the chances we get more Guard troops, and then what the president is going to send?
We'll succeed over time because we have to. I mean, we have to get the border secured. If you believe that governments respond to the people, overwhelmingly, the American people keep saying, get the border secured. Are we going to face opposition? Of course. But I got the 6,000 requirement of Guard on the border through the Armed Services Committee. We will continue to fight, and we will succeed over time. And I don't have any doubt about it. And when I'm chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, I can guarantee you we will do a lot more. But we got 51 votes, we and the senators from Texas, on a number of border issues just the other day. Now, they put in a 60-vote threshold, but it showed we have a majority in the Congress. We'll succeed. It'll be a tough fight.
But you say in the near future.
Sure.
I mean, I'm not asking to predict the time, but we can get that. For us, it just makes sense to people who live in Arizona, secure the border. I don't think people realize until the days we're putting the signs up, we're showing the signs that the Bureau of Land Management are putting up in Pinal County, just south of I-8. that are saying, don't come here. If you're American, stay out of here. Don't interact with people. So there's actually been a serious incursion across our border, and you think we can get that solved?
Well, if you look at the Yuma sector, they've had dramatically positive effects, not the Tucson sector. San Diego, parts of Texas. It's done in a number of areas. In the Yuma sector, they've made tremendous progress. In the Tucson sector, tragically, it's become a funnel for the most dangerous drug cartel in Mexico, which is the Sinaloa cartel, headed by a guy named Chapo Guzman. And these people are barbaric beyond description. That's what has changed over the last several years. And that's why I have, over time, visits to Mexico and seeing this with my own eyes, renewed the emphasis to get the border secured. And was it like this 4 years ago? No, it wasn't nearly as bad. In the last 3 years or so, a little over 3 years, 23,000 Mexican citizens have been murdered. So have no doubt about getting the border secured, and I know how to do it.
Okay, last question.
Yep.
Comment to me on Felipe Calderon and his speech in front of the Congress and the people that stood and applauded when he bashed Arizona's law.
Well, it's a free country, but I had lunch with him the day before. I did not go to the speech. I had lunch with him the day before, and I said to him flat out, I know that you know that Mexico City is the kidnapping capital of the world. Do you know what number 2 is? Phoenix, Arizona. And I said, looked him right in the eye, and I said, you have to understand that we want our border secured. And I suggested to him that he do some work on his southern border, which is very porous and illegal immigrants. There was an article in the Washington Post this morning about the people from Central America that come up through Mexico and the incredible things that are done to them, and the beatings and the rapes and it is a remarkable article. You ought to get it online.
I will look it up. I will get it online. Senator, thanks for spending so much time with us. I know that you've been up going at it since early.
It's always a pleasure to be with you. And again, if you'd have thought that you and I would learn that the Justice Department was going to sue Arizona by Ecuadorian television, man, I'm telling you, we live in a funny world.
Forget the Drudge Report. Every day now we go to the Ecuadorian television and news sites and we try to find out what's going on in America. All right, we'll be back in a few moments. Again, that was United States Senator John McCain. Don't go away.